Speaker, thank you for giving the floor. I'll be filling in for my whip who cannot debate due to personal reasons, and we're extremely sorry for that. So let us look at the case of the proposition. What do we see besides some general assertion which applies to every case of environment and one-liners, right? Number one, they tell us that companies will endure losses on its principle and they would turn good. Secondly, people are dying in Maldives and that is why we should do it. And thirdly, ICC would come up and stop the discrepancy between the developed and the underdeveloped countries and become a superior identity, even overwhelming United States of America in the process. Honorable Speaker, these are the one-liners that were in the debate, and that is what I'm going to rebut on. Honorable Speaker, so let's go to the side propositions. So second speaker, they come up and they tell us that ISIS will be such a big idea that there will be no avenue to turn to, and the developed countries developing countries will lastly have a voice which is a very supreme one. Honorable Speaker, understand the risks when you put all of your eggs into one bowl, right? That is what they are proposing. Honorable Speaker, this is what we are afraid about. If ICC turns out to be biased, and yes, there's a very good chance of the ICC turning out to be biased, what will happen? No answers from the side proposition. So that particular point stands, and that particular argument of theirs falls down. Honorable Speaker, now moving on to the fact that the whip comes up, and only one of the arguments in each debate was countries would not shield companies because they do not even like monopoly and they would like to break up big companies like Google. Honorable Speaker, that is where we tell you that leave the countries the hell off. If they deem that something bad is happening, they would go up and do it because they are under constant pressure from their peer countries. Honorable Speaker, this is not something that you want to deal with creating a new identity, with creating a new judicial system which severely can be corrupt in cases. Honorable Speaker, we told you that there are two bad sides of this particular motion, right? Number one, you create it and you piss some countries off without taking their help, because four most countries creating carbon dioxide are not signed into the Rome Statute, and they oppose this particular notion on its hand, ICC on its hand. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, we tell you, even if you create it, there are chances of exploitation because ICC is directly linked to United Nations Security Council, where these three countries, Russia, China, and US, has a veto power and has a lot of influences. Honorable Speaker, this is where they come off as wrong, and this is where they could not tackle these points as we told them. Honorable Speaker, lastly, they come up and tell us that yes, if we create ICC, it will actually hasten the lower the discrepancy between the developed countries and the developing ones. This is where we have a problem. Honorable Speaker, they have told us a lot of things today. They have told us a lot of good sides to having humanity. They have told us that yes, we would go up and do it and everything will change. But Honorable Speaker, how? This is the question that we have been asking them. How it would actually create lower the discrepancy between developed and the developing countries by being a super identity? Is that even freaking possible? I don't get it. Honorable Speaker, that is where they made a mistake, and that is where they wanted to create a fairy tale. But fairy tales do not happen in real life, and they will just have to deal with it. Honorable Speaker, last rebuttal from our side. Honorable Speaker, these people come up and tell us that it's not necessarily that you would be losing some sovereignty because you're not losing part of your land. Hilarious, because your judicial system is also part of your sovereignty. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, they come up and tell us that yes, if you lose some of your sovereignty, it's very good because some people, children in Maldives are not dying. But the real world do not work like that, and this is what actually divides them in the debate. Honorable Speaker, we gave you a good solution, that go with diplomacy that right now exists, and go with the green rules and the green regulatory organizations that right now exist in the penal codes. Right? This is what they could not face. This is what this is the point that they had no answer to. Thus, this particular point stands. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, some question that remained unanswered till now in the House, and which will remain unanswered. Number one, Honorable Speaker, the problems, as we actually pointed out to them, was how would they unite countries who are not in this particular Rome Statute, and how would they have incentive for saving the environment, as they are one of the top carbon emitting countries in the world, and giving someone else judicial access into their country, how would that serve out? No answers to that point yet. Secondly, ICC being very biased is a fact. And Honorable Speaker, how would they deal with the fact that ICC, as they tell you, that it will be a super image for the underdeveloped countries, and they would go up to ICC and give all of their complaints, and there will be the last avenue for every country in the world? How would that play out if ICC environmental code turns out to be biased by US or China or Russia? Honorable Speaker, these are the questions that were unanswered in the House. So we believe on the rebuttal side we win. Now let us move on to the clashes that were prevalent in the houses. Right. First of all, Honorable Speaker, the first clash of the house is ICC versus the alternative that we have given you. Let me emphasize on the fact that, Honorable Speaker, do you know what is the problem with ICC? We told you that the alternative that we have at hand, penal code, green codes, and environmental regulations, which are all reality. On the other hand, Honorable Speaker, they come up with an idea which is so super imagined that it's almost impossible to create without the help of the top countries, which they will not help because they have their own incentives, right? And secondly, Honorable Speaker, we see that even if they do come up, they would have their own incentive and a very big chance to make ICC biased as much as UNHC itself, Honorable Speaker, or United Nations itself, Honorable Speaker. That is where they have no answer. So we believe this particular clash on an alternative basis. Why is ours okay? Because it has been giving penalty, because a penal court in Bolivia has given penalty to a US company and they had to pay up, because a Philippines court had to pay up, and on the other hand we see ICC itself on its history has nothing. So, Honorable Speaker, we believe this particular clash comes to our house. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, on the point of being biased or not biased, Honorable Speaker, this is where we had a very big question, and the side proposition totally leaves it out of the game because maybe it does not matter to them. But this is where we come up and tell you that this is something that will not answer to underdeveloped countries at all. Because, Honorable Speaker, as much as we would like to help the underdeveloped countries, and maybe that is the goal of this particular debate, this is where we have a problem. Because, Honorable Speaker, ICC can be biased, and what would they do to tackle it down? No answers. Thus this particular clash comes to our house. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, one big point that was not still clear to them, that whether or not ICC requires a particular access to get into your country. Honorable Speaker, what I would like to them to know, because ICC itself is a voluntary organization, and as much as you'd like to go up and sue some country and take their judicial process in the way, this is where we have a problem. The problem is, if you're in a voluntary organization, you can pull out at any minute, and as Kenya did, and as ICC itself had nothing to do with it, and they could not do anything because Kenya pulled out. This is where we have a problem. Even if on an assuming basis, I see that you go ahead with this motion, you will be in the constant risk of pissing off the bigger countries and let them leave. This is where you have a problem. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, you would not be able to sue countries like US, China, and Russia, because at the end of the day, you would not have access to those countries because they are not in their own statute, and thus not their organizations too. Honorable Speaker, lastly, the point that I'm going to tell you, that, Honorable Speaker, that on this side of the house, you get a realistic motion telling you that if you want to improve your environmental codes. If you want to improve the things that you actually can, but do not create a persona that can actually, at the end of the day, destroy your life, because that can be biased, because that can be influenced by countries, and because that cannot be created, and your imagination will die with you. Thank you.